we are going to be talking about redefining as a choice. When I say redefining is a choice, I mean that life is a series of our choices. I promise you, if you start redefining you will find the man of your dreams, right? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of the Redefining podcast with your girl in VR. And at this podcast, we are basically purging, we are wrestling, and we are pushing our own limitations to discover the truth of who we were created to be. Right? So I'm glad that you are here with me on this episode. We are going to be talking about redefining as a choice, right? Redefining isn't something that just happens. It is a choice. If you did not listen to last week's episode, or the previous episode, I suggest that you go and listen to it so that you can understand what redefining is all about, right? So if this is your first time here, it is highly recommended that you go back, because today I'm going to follow up not only on what redefining is, but how we redefine, right? So when I say redefining is a choice, I mean that it's not going to happen on autopilot, right? So many of us want to change our lives, but we're not willing to put in the work to change that said life that we are unhappy with, right? Life is a series of our choices. So if you don't like what life is giving you, change the choices, right? For example, if you want to redefine how you do relationships, it's not going to work if you continue doing relationships the way that you do, right? I'm sure we've heard so many stories of, women who try and try and try again. They're looking for the one, right? And oftentimes we blame the men, but honestly, ladies, this is just a tip for free, right? We need to look at ourselves. We need to be the ones to redefine, because I promise you, if you start redefining you will find the man of your dreams, right? Let me make it a little bit more relatable to the guys as well. If you want to redefine your career, what is it that got you in the career that you're in right now? Maybe your parents, they chose your career path. How about you sit down with yourself and you surrender, like I had spoken in the first episode of this podcast, right? We spoke about the whole journey, the 4-step journey of redefining. How about you do that so that you can understand exactly what it is that you want from your life, right? You start with that redefining, but none of that is going to happen if you are just wallowing or discontent. It doesn't matter how unhappy you are with your life, nothing changes until you make the changes. So let's think about people who are very successful, people who are doing well, the people that we look up to, whatever your definition of success is, right? Think of that person that you have in mind and think about the journey that they took and the choices that they made, right? And try to align yourself, not necessarily to just copy paste, because all our lives are different, but to understand what was the thinking, what did this person have to do in order to become who they are. This is something that I tried to sort of be an example of, right? I know the dreams that I have for my life, and I know that where I am now isn't necessarily where I hope to be, right? So if you don't know this, I had actually started a YouTube channel, right? Well, you're watching on the YouTube channel right now if you're watching and not listening. And when I started this YouTube channel, it was all about me trying to document how I got from A to B, because all of us have a B, a destination that we're trying to get to, right? So I wanted to document each and every part of this process so that people understand exactly how it is that I got here. I didn't want to tell my story at the time where I know I've achieved the things that I wanted to achieve, right? There's so many people who I follow and who I look up to who are telling their stories from, center stage of where they are and not in the bedroom where they were hustling and grinding it out or praying and on their knees trying to get to the place that where they are right now. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is that these people make choices at every step of the way. There is a choice that everybody makes, right? There's a choice to go to therapy if you feel like, you know what, I'm unhappy with being depressed. There's a choice that you make. I made the choice to start this podcast, right? I had no intention at all to do a podcast, but I knew that doing this podcast would actually lead me to the me that I was created to be, right? So, whatever it is that you believe you were created to be, whatever path that you were meant to walk in, it's a series of choices, right? And sometimes we're so stubborn and set in our ways that we don't actually allow ourselves to make those choices. We think that we don't have the choice at all, right? I know as a people, as a nation, as Africans, as Black people, we've been through so many things. We've suffered at the hand of oppression. There's so many imbalances that exist in our lives, and so many things that we have a right to be unhappy about because of what has happened, not even in our history, and not even by the choices that we made, but by the choices that our forefathers made, right? But we can't let all of those limitations that we were born into set the tone for the rest of our lives, right? And sometimes we're so stubborn, even in the pain. Sometimes you don't want to let go of the abusive boyfriend, right? Sometimes you don't want to let go of your own thinking. You think that you're a victim. You think that you don't have a choice to make any other decision, that you are stuck in the life that you have, right? Sometimes we're stubborn about the type of person that we date, or we're stubborn about the job that we're at, or we're stubborn about the way that we eat, our lack of exercise, all of those things, right? And what we don't realize is that each and every choice that we make, it links into who we become, right? So as I was studying these great people that I look up to, I was like, wait, these people, they're not listening to 50 Cent every day, right? No shade to 50 Cent. I love him personally, but they are doing the things that are necessary to get to where they want to go, right? If I am watching the Real Housewives, it's not going to get me to become a real housewife, or the woman who is, living this lavish life and just, seemingly, I don't know, content with her life, right? Watching somebody else do it is not what's going to get me there. What's going to get me there is making those choices, right? So they made their choices to start businesses, to marry wealthy, if that's your vibe, right? Whatever the case may be, whatever's going to get you to that place where you believe that at the end of your redefining, where you want to become, where you want to find yourself, that is going to be a result of a series of choices, right? There is a quote that I heard that I absolutely love and I try to live by. It says, "We are born looking like our parents, but we die looking like our decisions," right? So whatever it is that you have set for yourself, if you want to be a business person, if you want to be, an entrepreneur, there's a series of choices that you have to make in order for that to succeed, right? You don't get to being the owner of Amazon, the founder and creator of Amazon, and one of the richest people in the world, by making the choice of saying, "Oh man, God, if you just let me build $1 billion empire, then I'll be happy." No, he made a series of choices, right? He made a series of choices, and not just wishful thinking and hoping, but he put himself out there. Would you believe that there was a time right, that exists, where Jeff Bezos was actually delivering the Amazon packages to people? It existed, right? That it happened because he made that choice, right? There's a lot of choices that I didn't think that I needed to make. an example is with finances, right? I desire to be somebody in my family who can help empower others, right? Because I know what it's like to receive that empowerment from someone else. And I wanted that for myself, to have that empowerment to give and pass on that baton to other people. But there's so many toxic ways of thinking about money that I held on to for so long. And they seemed so noble, they seem so noble. I'm sure we've all heard them before. The money is the root of all evil. No, that's not true. And I had to open myself up and start listening to people who know more about money than I do. And I realized that actually some of these people who aren't packaged in the way that I want, like I used to have this thing that, I'm not going to listen to anybody who's not a Christian. And half the time, those experts, those business experts or finance experts aren't talking about their faith, because that's not what they're sharing. They're sharing the thing that they're experts in, right? So I wouldn't even know. And I had to break my own thinking and be like, okay, I don't know this person's faith, but I'm not here to hear about their faith. I'm actually here to learn from them with regards to how they got to the goal that I want, right? So I had to break my own thinking and break my own mold, and actually take in the knowledge that I needed in order to get to where I want to be, right? Because the knowledge that I had and the information and the belief systems that I had about money did not come from people who are wealthy. It came from people who are not doing too well, or people who are no longer with us but did not live fulfilled lives, right? So think about that for yourself. What is it for you that you have been holding on to and you believe that this is gospel, but it's really not, and one of the things that has helped me, in fact, I think this is the most important thing that has helped me redefine, is reading the Bible, right? The information that you immerse yourself in will help reshape and form your life and your thinking and your belief systems, right? I love the scripture that says, do not be conformed to the ways of the world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, right? And when I say redefining is my synonym for renewing your mind, right? So when you make that decision to renew your mind or to redefine, you actually step into who you were created to be. So I encourage you to make that choice.